Hello and welcome. This is my new channel, Learning to Trust God with Chronic Illness. To start every video, I'd like to show some footage from creation around me. Being God's creation helps me to remember He is God and He's powerful and that I can't control my life. Hi, my name is Corey and I am starting a channel on learning to trust God with chronic illness. I've been on a journey for my whole life, but recently in March of 2021, I was finally diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. And at that point, the diagnosis just validated and gave a name to the struggles and also explanation to the struggles I've been having most of my life. And so I just wanted to start this channel because I've been through a journey of going through just that question of what's wrong with me for so many years, and then diagnosis, the many things I've lost and processing those through grief. And I just wanted to share some of the things that I've been learning and what it's teaching me about trusting and leaning into God through this season. And so I wanted to introduce this today by just kind of looking back to my pre-diagnosis and understanding through that lens of CFS and fibromyalgia just what things were coming to light in terms of my childhood. So when I was a young boy, I was the smallest kid in my class, always the shortest, and we would have these photos, annual school photos, and we'd line up from tallest to shortest so that the photographer could adjust the stool that we would sit on. And I was always the last one. I was also just the smallest, skinniest, probably the weakest. I never had to fight anybody. Nobody felt me worthy to fight, I suppose. And so yeah, that was kind of the mentality of my mind, was just I'm weak, I'm small. I struggled to keep up academically. I had to really work hard to maintain my grades, but also what made it most significant was just in times of physical exertion that were prolonged. So I could do fine at a sprint. So for the Canada Fitness Test, we often do sprints or long distance running as well. And I could always do well at the sprinting. I was pretty fast. But if there's anything that exerted my energy levels for a longer time, like long distance running, soccer, hockey, different sports where you have to keep running for a long period of time or keep enduring, I just didn't do well. I remember one time in particular, I was swimming at an Olympic-sized pool, and I was doing laps, and I always hated doing laps because I didn't get breaks. And you know, when I was doing my different swim classes, I would have to do longer and longer durations, and I just knew that I didn't have the system that would cope well with that. And so I would try to gut it out, but one day I remember my head was just pounding, like the blood, my heart was just in my head, and I could tell my face was extremely red, and I just felt like dizzy, and my head was pounding, and I felt nauseous. And I remember the lifeguard just telling me to come out of the pool and just to sit and put my head between my legs and just kind of recover. And that was my first recollection when I found out about post-exertional malaise, or PEM for short. And that's when people with chronic fatigue syndrome push it too hard physically. They go into what's called a crash, or a crash state. And post-exertional malaise is a state where you don't want to be. It feels the worst. It feels like you're nauseous, sick. Everything is just kind of spinning, dizziness, all these onsets. And so I found out through my studies that this is part of the problem we have with CFS, is that we go into an anaerobic state. So we're not as efficient at using oxygen, and so we switch to this anaerobic state, which draws upon different ways of making energy for the body, and it's not good for prolonged. So I'd always have massive lactic acid buildup when I would do physical exercise. It was too much. And you know, all my life I've been told, like, push harder and stronger and go harder, so workout routines. But after finding out about post-exertional malaise, it's actually for people with CFS, and with mitochondria production, energy production issues, with anaerobic problems, this is actually the worst you can do. And so I've learned to temper my expectations for physical exercise. But those are just some reflections I had as a child. And I've had many instances since being diagnosed where whether it's been pushing a broom, whether it's doing a hike up an incline, that were just times when I realized that this is not a good idea for me. So those are just a few thoughts I want to share with you today about my experience, and hope it helps you understand what that CFS and what FM can be like, even as a child, even as a kid growing up.